earlier this year, I think it was a couple months ago actually, Texas voted and Governor Greg Abbott signed into law a new redistricting map that would take into effect ahead of the 2026 midterms, which would give the Republicans an additional 5 seats in Texas. This was a very controversial decision. Mid-decade redistricting is not supposed to happen. The only time districts are supposed to be redrawn is every 10 years after the census is conducted. Additionally, this is further gerrymandering used for political gain. As a result, Governor Gavin Newsom in California did the same exact thing. His was not as egregious, even though it was obviously political advantage for Democrats. It was at least a ballot measure that the residents of California were able to vote on. So the government was operating at the behest of the people in that instance. That is democracy. So I do like that. I think it was good. I think that if you are going to redraw your districts, your constituents should vote on it, which of course did not happen in Texas. It passed through both chambers of the state Senate or of the state Congress, and then went to Greg Abbott's desk for it to sign. Of course, both of these instances were challenged legally, and both of these instances are fucking ridiculous. I say this because I hate gerrymandering. I hate gerrymandering when Democrats do it. I hate gerrymandering when Republicans do it. Of course, however, Republicans take it to the fucking umpteenth degree. There are more instances of egregious Republican gerrymandering than there is Democratic gerrymandering, like Arizona, like Louisiana's. I think it's their third congressional district, which just basically runs through the middle of the state and concentrates black voters into a single district so that way they can't flip any of the other districts. Texas, of course, it took Austin and split it. Austin is the most liberal city in Texas, and it split the voters into two districts um to further water down the Democratic vote. Off the top of my head, the most egregious instance of Democratic gerrymandering is in Chicago, but Democrats don't have to take advantage of the electoral system like Republicans do. Anyway, enough rambling, dumbass. This Texas's new redistricting map was struck down in a federal court by 3 judges. It was a 2-1 vote. At least one of the judges was a Republican judge who was appointed by Donald Trump in his first term, if I remember correctly. And they struck it down on the basis of racial gerrymandering. In other words, they are trying to dilute the black and brown vote to make it more favorable for Republicans. This video is courtesy of the Barry Weiss News Network. Court blocks Texas from using new congressional map for 2026 elections.
Got some big breaking news out of the state of Texas. A panel of judges on a federal court have ruled against using that highly controversial redrawn congressional map in the Lone Star State. This ahead of next year's midterm elections. Instead, lawmakers will use the lines drawn back in 2021. Now, those maps signed into law this year would have given Republicans in the state of Texas a shot at picking up 5 more seats in Congress. Lots to break apart here. Live.
I think I need to adjust my commentary on this because when I say that Republicans and Democrats do this to get more seats, that is what the projection is. You still have to compel people to go out and vote for you. Judging off of this most recent election and how unpopular MAGA is and how unpopular Donald Trump is, the Republicans are going to have a significantly harder time compelling voters in 2026. We saw massive left-wing shifts, massive leftward shifts in every county in Virginia. For example, even strong Trump counties voted for Abigail Spanberger, or Abigail Spanberger outperformed Kamala Harris by like 4 or 5 percentage points. The fact of the matter is that the American people are fed the fuck up with the Republican Party. It's very easy to understand why. The Republicans are responsible for 40% of VA workers being laid off. They are responsible for like tens of thousands of government workers being furloughed. Donald Trump ran on affordability, has not done anything to address it. The healthcare costs are going to skyrocket now that the government has reopened. People are tired of getting fucking pissed on by the Republican Party. So they can try to redistrict all they want, but it's no guarantee that they're going to pick up any more seats.
CBS News politics reporter Hunter Woodall. So Hunter, this is a huge development because this was a hard-fought battle in the state of Texas. We saw all of the drama that happened leading up to it. But I would imagine that California and other states looking to redraw their maps are watching this ruling closely.
Reed, this is a massive ruling. It has truly tremendous implications for next year's midterms. I've been reading through the pages before we started talking. And what's clear here is obviously this panel of judges, it was a 2-to-1 decision. They have ruled against the Texas map that would have essentially helped Republicans have a good shot at winning 5 congressional seats.
I know it's kind of hard to see because of my setup, but the blue districts, I'm pretty sure this is Austin. I think this is Austin. This is Houston, and this is Dallas, Fort Worth. Don't I'm not great at geography here. You can see the difference in both the size of the blue circles and the shade of the blue circles in these proposed districts. Again, they're trying to dilute the Democratic vote so that way these districts pick up more Republican seats.
They're currently held by Democrats under the old lines. Now, everything here, Texas was the center point of all the redistricting tensions that spilled out across the nation so far this year. That's why you've seen California redraw its maps, and then other states in response to California and likewise. So this decision, the U.S. House has an incredibly narrow majority of House Republicans right now. The implications are massive for what this could mean for the midterms and for control of the U.S. House. Already Democrats are touting this ruling, celebrating this ruling, but I think you're likely to see Republicans very upset by what the judges are saying here.
Right. And on what grounds? Because, of course, a lot of people who were against the redrawing of maps in the state of Texas said it was done to sort of deflate the power of black and brown voters in the state of Texas. In California, legal action taken against California's effort is that the maps were drawn to favor Latino voters. So on what grounds are you seeing that these panel of judges made this ruling today?
One of the critical moments we're seeing here, there's a letter from the Department of Justice that the court filing talks about coming in July. And they cite this letter as being a critical part of their decision. And I'm quoting now from the ruling. They say that the DOJ letter that the Trump administration sent was urging Texas to redraw its congressional maps to improve their performance of Republican candidates. Had the administration redrawn lines to help Republican candidates, had the letter been about that, that would have been harder for the plaintiffs, the people challenging these lines, to overcome. But the idea instead that the DOJ letter that has become central, this Department of Justice letter that has become central to this case, instead is talking about something different. Instead is talking about, here I'm reading, about using the state to essentially talking about racial lines, racial demographics. Right. That is looming large here, and that could have massive implications on how this goes forward, because essentially states can draw congressional maps based on partisanship. That's allowed. It's when the racial aspect gets into this that it becomes much more difficult to say.
It shouldn't be, though. What's also interesting about this, and let's let this guy finish.
It really is fundamental.
Okay, so that states are allowed to draw districts based on partisanship, which should not be allowed. Let's make that very clear. But not allowed to draw lines based on race. So by that logic, gerrymandering should not be allowed because black people, Hispanic people, overwhelmingly vote Democratic. Maybe not overwhelmingly, judging from 2024, but historically have voted for the Democratic Party more often than they have the Republican Party. White people, on the other hand, they are the majority of Republican voters. Gerrymandering is inherently racial. I don't understand how you can say what this gentleman just said and not put two and two together that maybe this system is fucked up. Additionally, if that's the case, why was Louisiana allowed to redraw their districts when they did? Because, as I mentioned, and I talked about this in the last episode, I'm gonna pull up the map again. This is Louisiana's new congressional map. The 2nd and 6th congressional districts, as you could see by this chart, over 50% black voting age population. This was done intentionally by whatever fucking commission is responsible for this. They put New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport all in Democratic districts and took them out of Republican districts. Why is that? Again, it is so that they can concentrate black voters into their own districts and not worry about spillover into safe Republican districts. Gerrymandering is inherently racialized. It is merely another form, I don't want to say another form of Jim Crow, but it is another instance of systemic racism. This is not truly reflective of the population.
To this situation in Texas and also in California. So going forward, do representatives of this, people who are proponents of it, have an option to appeal?
I think when it comes to Texas versus California, the rationale is that the Democrats are just picking up more people who would vote for them anyway. The Republican argument in Texas is that they are diluting the minority population to make their districts safer. I don't even know if that's a coherent argument. I mean, it's not really, I don't think. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I already said like 3 times that I hate gerrymandering. I think it's a fucking scourge on electoral politics. But also remember, you can't be racist against white people in the redrawing of congressional maps. It's not a thing.
It's very early, obviously, Reed, but I would expect an appeal here, and I would expect quite a bit of anger and discord amongst the GOP on what has happened here. This Texas redraw was really central to what President Donald Trump and Republicans wanted to see to help them in next year's midterms, where they were already facing challenging national political headwinds to keep their narrow majority in the House. This kind of ruling is obviously going to be quickly met with derision by Republicans and also likely to face appeals, though it's unclear how quickly that will happen. But obviously, this really does upend the midterms at this moment.
Yeah, 2 questions, 2 words really form the question. Now what? Hunter Woodall, we know you'd be chasing the answer to that for sure.
God, that was so corny, bro. It is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. On the one hand, it's crucial to remember that Gavin Newsom and other Democratic governors are looking to implement these changes as a reaction to what the Republicans are doing. The Republicans started this battle. And now the Democrats are actually playing the Republicans' game, and the Republicans are bitching and moaning about it for whatever reason. If this gets struck down in Texas, I do believe it will get struck down in California as well, which is also another interesting legal battle because you're going against the will of the American people in that regard. So we'll see about that. But if these get struck down in these 2 states, it basically kills any Republican momentum towards redistricting, which I think will make them even more angry because the whole reason they were doing this was to ensure that they keep this majority that they have in 2026 because they're worried. They know that they're unpopular. They know their policies are dog shit. They know that Donald Trump is commanding a sinking ship. So they need to do everything in their power to maintain the slim grip on power that they have. As always, thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out. Everything I'm associated with is linked down below. Follow me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed any of the content. Both of those help out tremendously with the algorithm. If you're listening to this on Spotify, follow the show and leave a rating over there As well as always, stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you in the next one.